Oh, hello. I obviously didn't see you there, guys. I was just casually chilling in my favorite part of my room. This corner. Boy, was that a bad intro. Hello guys, it's Sebastian and welcome back to my channel and welcome more specifically to the 5th episode of my Puhon podcast. I actually didn't know if this would serve as like a podcast episode just because I want it to be like more interesting, but I think I can do that in a Puhon podcast episode, hopefully. And yeah, if you guys follow me on my Instagram account, which is at _itssebastian, yesterday I actually set up a poll. Is it a poll? It's like a question and answer tag wherein I ask you guys to ask me questions that are related to online classes because we have actually just done a solid year in just online classes, and knowing the person that I am, I wanted to reflect today or tonight like super duper well on it. So I decided to do this video, which is kind of like me answering questions about online classes after a year into doing it and my thoughts in general about online classes. And yeah, I am actually in my phone right now and I'm looking through all of the questions that you guys have sent me last night, which I'm super duper thankful for, by the way. So I have here a question and it says, what is your favorite subject? So in this online classes setup, I actually have multiple favorites, but the first thing that pops in my mind is MIL, or Media and Information Literacy, just because that is the subject wherein we were focused more on doing layouts, which is obviously a big passion of mine. And also the topics that we had there were actually more like on the film side of life, like the sound effects, transitions, quick cuts and all that. And I'm super geeky about that stuff, as you guys already know, which is obvious. That's why I have a YouTube channel, right? And so that is the favorite subject I've had in like the first sem, because we only had that subject for the first sem. But I feel like the subject that's most interesting to me and the subject that has kept me curious from the start of the school year down to its end is ANAPHY, which is Anatomy and Physiology, which makes sense just because my strand is HAS, which is Health Allied strand. It is under STEM strand. However, what's different with HAS as compared to STEM is the fact that we are focused more on students who are aiming to be in the medical field in the latter part of life. And given that ANAF is one of our advanced subjects, that just confirmed how right probably I am in taking this HAS strand. Also, besides ANAFI, I'm also interested a lot in healthcare, which again makes perfect sense just because I have chosen the HAS strand in the first place. So to have those two be the most interesting subjects for me in a way just makes it worth it for me that I chose this strand to begin with. So yeah, those subjects are probably my favorites. And for the ANAFI and healthcare, before I forget, given that it is our advanced subjects, we had those from our first sem up until our second sem. So yeah, that's that for our first question. What is your favorite subject? 2 people actually asked me that, and yeah, that's that. So the next question that we have here is, how did you manage to survive this school year? Wow, second question, and we're already going that deep, folks. Isn't it that deep? Anyway, to be honest, I didn't actually know how I was able to survive this school year, just because online classes for me is just hard. You know, to be able to constantly find your motivation and inspiration in a place wherein you don't actually consider it to be a place where you would be working is very, very hard, given that we are in a household setting for the most part of this online classes, right? It's so hard to find that motivation that could only be seen in schools. It was a challenge. But yeah, personally, I feel like the thing that kept my boat afloat in this online classes setup is time management. As ironic as that sounds, because for me, time management is basically just overworking and always pushing yourself to the limits. But excuse me, but I feel like I'm yet to discover and master more the art of it. But I feel like for the most part of this online classes setup, or for this school year, I feel like that's what really kept my boat afloat. Time management and really just prioritizing what I need to do more, because whenever requirements would come to us and overwhelm and get the best of us, it could sometimes be hard to know which activities to prioritize, most especially when teachers, for example, they would be posting 10 requirements, for example, okay, in a week in our Google Classroom. And for me, we could easily get overwhelmed by that, and we could easily just stress out instead of actually taking the time to fully divide the tasks evenly so we could finish everything like effectively. So yeah, that's honestly one of the things that helped me survive this school year. Another thing would surely be the fact that I take breaks as much as I can, but it isn't the break wherein I would go a full hour just resting, which I feel like is also toxic because I only ever rest whenever we're filled with activities for only like 5 minutes after each activity, which I feel like what I said a while ago, it is toxic. It could burn you out eventually. That's what happened to me, unfortunately. But thankfully, the part where I was like getting burnout and getting unmotivated with online classes like towards the end of the school year already. So it wasn't as noticeable in my outputs and everything. It's just that I was just so tired. Also because of the mindset that I've been carrying with me throughout this whole online classes setup, which is the mentality wherein I always thought the sooner I get more work done, the more time I'll get to rest in the latter part, which is actually useless to be honest, because teachers always have the choice to drop a requirement any day of the week, and we also have the choice to divide it evenly so burnouts could be avoided. Unfortunately, the latter part did not end up well for me. So yeah, that was a struggle, but I feel like it was a learning step for me because then I would already know what to do better in this next school year. Hopefully this next school year wouldn't be a solid online classes because that would just be really hard, most especially to the skill-based courses. So yeah, I feel like those are the things that helped me survive this school year in a way, getting more rest and just dividing my works evenly, or at least trying to, and proper time management and avoiding as much as I can the mentality that, oh, I can do this tomorrow, so I will just do it tomorrow. I mean, if I can do it now, I will do it now. So I feel like that's also a good and a bad thing at the same time, just because when you get addicted to that mentality, you have this tendency to lean on the negative side of being a workaholic. And trust me, that is not what we'd want to happen to ourselves. So it is important to also take small breaks every now and then. So that's it for the second question. For the next question, we have this: what is your regular online classes day routine? So in starting this year's online classes, it was actually pretty hard for me just because whenever I am pursuing education, I always want to have that degree of separation from a place where I can relax, from a place where I can get just entertained, and in a place where I could just focus on a work, which is super duper hard in this online classes just because those degrees of separation that I just talked about could easily be seen in the traditional setup or the face-to-face one, just because, when you go to school, you would have that mentality, or your energy would just be focused on the fact that you just need to learn, you need to focus on the things you're doing, on the recitations, on the quizzes, exams, summative, yada yada yada. But to be honest, it's just hard to find that level of separation in this online classes just because a lot of temptations are just surrounding you. Your bed could just be right beside your table, or just a few steps away from your table, you could already just have access to food, which, there are just a lot of distractions in this online classes setup. But a routine that has helped me, most especially in starting this online classes, is the fact that I was acting as if we were still in face-to-face classes, and by that I mean I still wake up early, I eat food, I wash my face, I also brush my teeth, and I also dress up, just to have that psychological side to it that I am going to work today, or that I'm going to learn today. I need to have this energy, so I need to divert the physicalities of myself in a way to fit the energy that I'm in school today, even though I'm just virtually in school in a way. So with this, those are actually the routine that I've done in starting the school year. However, towards the end of the school year, given that, like what I said a while ago, I got a bit more unmotivated. I was literally just, doing meditation before going to my first Zoom class, and that's just literally it. Sometimes I do not even eat anymore before I go to my first class. I just wake up, meditate on my laptop, and then that's it, which I feel like is also good. I feel like there's still that level of separation, just not as noticeable as how it was obviously when we're still in face-to-face classes. And yeah, those are the things that I just wanted to preserve in this online classes, to have also bits and touches of the traditional one, just because I feel like that's the setup where I work the best in, or wherein my effectivity as a student is like, that's the peak of my effectivity as a student. So that's what I try to incorporate in my daily life in this online classes setup. But I feel like those are just my routine. It's not the most ideal one, but it's like effective on my part. So as long as it's effective on your side, doesn't matter. As long as it works, I feel like that's the ultimate goal of all of this anyway. So that's it for that question. For the next question, I would be answering a super duper spicy question, and that is, why does online class suck? That's so brutal. Like, God, it's brutal out here. No, okay, so to be honest, I feel like, to be fair, in general, online classes depends on the institution that lets you feel how online classes feel like firsthand. When we were still in face-to-face classes, we only had a tad bit of idea of what online classes is, and the role that the institutions play in this setup is super duper important, because that's what we would be remembering of how online classes are in general for the rest of our lives, I feel like. But we cannot also fully blame them just because this thing isn't what they've also wanted in the first place. It is just the effects of this pandemic. So it's not that online classes suck, it's just that adjusting to it, that's the part that sucks. It's just that it's hard to fully excuse me, that's my second burp in this podcast episode. Make that 3, folks. I cannot put up my finger. Anyway, yeah, so back to what I was saying. Given that all of us work differently under different environments, some people may view online classes as a modality that sucks, and I completely respect that. Most especially if your course is a skill-related one, I strongly believe that we should still have a ligtas na balik eskwela, please. Yeah, I feel like that's just my take on that. We still have a long way to go if this online classes were to continue forever. I hope it would not, because for as long as one can remember, learning has always been done face to face. So it's just hard to abruptly change how we're used to a thing without having the bumps of challenges. That makes any sense at all? I don't know. I feel like I'm so sabaw in this podcast episode just because it is 10:42 already and I need a video to upload this week. So I'm just, getting by. I'm pretty much just like all of you guys. I'm just getting by. Anyway, I would now hop on to my next question. So this is my next question. Has cheating become magnified by the online class setting? To be honest, I feel like yes. Given that we're at this point in time where students have more access to internet now more than ever, because when we were still in face-to-face classes, gadgets could just be easily collected to avoid cheating in a way. And given that a lot of that has been stripped back in this online classes setup, I feel like it's just hard to say that cheating is not rampant in this setup. It is magnified, but guys, we should never resort onto it, no matter how tempted we are already. It's just the fact that we should just always need to question ourselves. If we could cheat at this young age that we are in right now, do you think that you could get through even bigger challenges in the latter part of life? Because life, its price is something that cannot be cheated on, to be honest. So yeah, it just pays to be true to yourself. And in cheating, it is not only the teacher who's affected. Just because I feel like teachers also have this tendency to question their worth as the professionals they are if their students cheat. But most of all, your teachers aren't the ones you're just cheating in here, it's also yourself. So we would not want to fool ourselves in the long run. We'd always be want to stay true to our core. So I feel like, yes, cheating has been magnified in this online classes setting, but it is something that we should never resort into. That's just that. I would not give like the longest answer for this one just because it's pretty much self-explanatory. Cheating, by all means, by any stretch, it isn't a right thing to do. So I wouldn't need to justify my answer for that already. But yeah, like what I said a while ago, we should just never resort into it. Please do not forget that, guys. Please never resort into cheating. So for the next question that we have here, what particular subject makes you go, ugh? Or like the emoji that is like already tired, that emoji. So I feel like this particular subject that makes me go like this is... Oh, I actually have a subject that makes me go like this. I was thinking a while ago and I thought that I would not have a subject that makes me feel that way, but I actually do have one now. It is, ladies and gentlemen, robotics. I just don't know. I try myself to be interested in it. It's just that my interest doesn't just completely align with robotics in general. You know, wires, I hate wires. Numbers, I hate numbers. And lastly, codes. I just hate codes. So all of those three combined in one subject, robotics, that's just like my worst nightmare, to be honest. Which is pretty much ironic just because my dad's work is in a way aligned with that field. So I don't know, maybe I just got all of my interest in that as well. Okay, so for the next question, how do you cope up with the stress brought by the online classes? I would answer this quite plainly, but I just rest. I don't know how to explain that in a way just because, you know, resting comes in many forms. But by resting, I just mean, you know, maybe sit, get away from my gadgets. That's what I do. And just sit in silence, and that's how I recharge in a way and get more sleep. That's basically just how I de-stress in online classes. And also towards the end of this school year, another coping mechanism I've developed, which is not healthy, is buying from online shops. Shopee being like the biggest bundle of my life. So I feel like those are the ways that I de-stress during this online classes setup. And those might sound shallow, but those are actually the ones that had kept me sane throughout the whole duration of this school year. So this question would actually be the last question that I'd be answering. Sorry for the questions that I haven't answered. But yeah, this is a question. Advice for next graduating students under online classes. 1. Get as much rest as you can now. 2. Get as much sleep as you can during the online classes. And third, do not overwork. Okay, so I would go in depth of the explanation for each. Actually, not for each, just like for the third one, just because the first two are pretty much self-explanatory. But I feel like it's just super duper important to get as much rest as you can at this point in time already. Just because, you know, it has been a tough academic year for you guys, for all of us, to be honest. And we need to recharge as much as we can now before we go into another cycle of that draining process. And yeah, those are probably the advice that I'd be having. And for the last one, I forgot that I'd go in depth about that. So do not overwork. So by that, I mean, I cannot speak fully about that just because I am still having a problem with handling overworking. But to be honest, 10 requirements being posted in a day doesn't equate to you also finishing all of those 10 in the next day. And also using planners and journals, that helps a lot for me, given that I am a person who wants things physically done. Like whenever I'd be highlighting a requirement that I've already done, it just makes me feel accomplished by the end of the day, to be honest. So yeah, I feel like everything that I've done this school year is, you know, psychological, but everything at this point, to be honest, just psychological. So what's the point of doing things better than the last time round? Yeah, that would actually basically be my advice for the graduating students. I've also said some advices like earlier in this video, like Do not cheat. No matter how tempted you are to do it already, just do not. It's not the right thing to do. It's not worth it. And yeah, I feel like those are just the advices. I'm sorry if the advices or my answers in general for this video are like so shallow, but I'm just so about today. And that would basically be it for this video. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode, this video. Make sure to give this a big thumbs up if you are watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this episode in Spotify, make sure to share it to your friends if you want to. It wouldn't hurt nobody, I guess. So yeah, that would basically be it. I hope you guys are staying safe. This has been Sebastian, and I hope that we could spread love a little more often. I'll see you on my next video. Bye-bye. Wait, if you guys made it to this part, thank you so much. But I just love this background so much. So if you also like this setup that we have right now, make sure to comment it below so I could improve it. How? By buying more plants. So yeah, this would be my final intro. See you guys.